Alright guys, what is up? It is Shin, and today we're going to be answering the question, is Acheron worth it in 2.6 and going into 3.x? Is she worth investing in or continuing to invest, or do you just save for 3.x because they're going to be introducing new characters and power level is going to be increasing again? Is she worth your jades? And we're going to be talking about that today. But before we get into that, we are going to ask you guys a very important question of what is your favorite path and why? Let me know down in the comments. Mine is Agility. I just love all the characters and the playstyle for it. So let me know what yours is down below. All right, so let's go into a not so quick hit guide overview build. So Acheron is a lightning agility unit who is a reverse hyper carry because she builds stacks of slash dreams when you apply debuffs to the enemy, and then she relies on her ultimate for as much damage as possible. Before we get into that, let's show my build. This is outside of battle, so you're not going to fully see what everything looks like right now, but I'll show a screenshot of what it is in battle with all the buffs and stuff, just so you can kind of see like the difference, because you might think that 50% crit rate is pretty low, but we'll show you. We'll show you. First up, we have our light cone, signature light cone along the passing shore. Obviously is best in slot, increases crit damage, gives an additional debuff, so when you use her skill, she gains 2 stacks of slash dreams and increases damage she deals to enemies with fizzle, and increases ultimate damage as well. Very useful, very strong. Other options you can run are, for second best is Good Night Sleep Well. You could run, if you don't have this at S5, you could run Welt's signature light cone. I'll put it up on the screen. But if you have like 3 to 5 Good Night Sleep Well, that's better for Acheron. So try and get at least an S3, but preferably just get an S5. It's the second best in slot aside from her signature light cone. Or you can run, if you have it, Boundless Choreo, because it does give her crit rate and crit damage, so it is helpful. It's nice, but it is also a last resort if you need it, if you need to give her a light cone. Otherwise, I would say Good Night Sleep Well, Along the Passing Shores are really just the 2 options you should consider. Now for traces, ignore basic attack, max everything else out. I did this because my queen deserves the best, and that's what she got. Talent, it's all about her ultimate. So she gains 9 stacks of slash dream. She can trigger her ultimate. She deals damage to the toughness regardless of weakness type, and gives all type res reduction. So it's her big stack. It's her main gimmick and allows her to be crazy, do her shenanigans. Ultimate, QTE ultimate, really good. I like it. It's really satisfying to watch bing bing boom, like anime slashes go burr. Skill applies or gains 1 stack of slash dream, and like I said, if you have her signature light cone, you can use that to gain 2 stacks every time she performs her skill, which you are going to be wanting to only use her skill, so no point in using her basic attack at all, because if you're using it, you messed up and you'll have to fix the rotation. We're gonna go over the Eidolons first, because the Eidolons determine your relics a little bit, and I will explain that when we get to the relics. Like I said, my queen deserves the best, got her E6. There are 3 trains of thought, in my opinion, when pulling Eidolons for Acheron. First one, which is the easiest answer, do you pull Eidolons or signature light cones first? Signature light cone, I would rather you go E0 S1, because if you're pulling Eidolons, you just go to E2. That's a lot of pulls. That's whatever 180 times 3 is. That's a lot of pulls and a lot of jades. And honestly, I love her, and I think her E2 is amazing, and we'll go over that in just a second. It's not worth it when you could pull another character, especially if you're a free-to-play or light spender. If you're free-to-play, I just wouldn't bother pulling for her light cone unless you absolutely love her. But I also think her signature light cone just does so much for her that I think she's one of the DPSs that I would recommend her signature light cone on. But her E1 just gives crit rate, which is very helpful and it's very nice because it makes your builds comfy. It's just not as valuable as her E2, which is reduces the number of Nihility characters required for her Trace the Abyss, which just gives her a big damage buff. So it reduces it from 2 Nihility units to 1. So that allows you to make room for a Harmony character such as Bronya, Sparkle, and Sunday if you know, because it allows you to have only 1 other Nihility unit. And at the start of your turn, it gives 1 stack of Slash Dreams just for her being there. So E2 S0, she gains 2 stacks every skill. At E2 S1, she gains 3 stacks every time she takes a turn because you're going to want to be using her skill. So at worst, she's gaining 2 every turn. At best, she's gaining 3 every turn. Her E3 ultimate and basic attack, it's IE, but like, you know, they're on, like, obviously if you're going for E2, if you're going past that, you're going to go to E6. Her E4, when enemies enter, gives them ultimate damage vulnerability, and which just increases the damage they take by ultimates. Her E5, skill and talent upgrades. Her E6 is an E6 of all time and increases all type res pen for ultimate damage by 20%, and basically all damage she does is ultimate damage now. So her basic attack and skill are considered ultimate damage, and if you guys don't already know, she focuses on increasing ultimate damage. A lot of her skills and her, like for example, her talent, her light cone, all focus on ultimate damage. So just allowing that to just get effectively buffed increases her damage floor a lot, because it's just everything gets applied that huge damage percent increase. And then also it just reduces the toughness gauge regardless, and then if it breaks, triggers lightning weakness break effect. That second effect is really nice, but it's like for E6, you're getting more from the E6 or the first half. The second is really just like a bonus. Now to kind of go over what I was saying, there's 3 trains of thought in my opinion. There's E0, S0, or E0, S1. If you're gonna go for Eidolons, go for S2. That's it. You don't need everything else is just extra. It's not absolutely necessary. I just think her E2 is just such a big quality of life difference that if you're going to spend money to get Eidolons, just get her E2 S1. Everything else is just kind of excessive, really, because it's a limited 5-star. Like it just trivializes the game. And if you're gonna pull for Eidolons after that, after you have E0 or E2 S1, you're just gonna full send it to E6 anyways. I feel like her E4 is good, it's really good, but like at that point, just go for the E6. Like, come on, let's be real. If you're gonna be swiping for Eidolons for a 5-star and you're going past E3, just full send it to 6. But I think her E6 is crazy, just like every other limited 5-star. So I do think it's really cool. And if you're able to get it, that's awesome. Join the club. Let me know if you want to get E6 Acheron one day. Next up, we're going to be going over her relics now that we talked about her Eidolons, because I think her Eidolons affect her build. So I'm going to go over E0 first and then E2, because it does change a little bit. So E0, you're gonna want speed boots and trying to get speed on everything. Now I'll show you my build real quick. Just keep in mind E6 S1. Now you're gonna want as much speed as possible, because she's not gonna have the comfiness of having like Sparkle or Bronya on your team, or Robin even. So for sets, there's going to be 2 sets and planar sets that you can go into. Her best in slot is going to be Pioneer Diver, because it just increases damage dealt to debuffed enemies and gives her extra crit rate and crit damage, and she really needs as much crit rate as possible because her entire kit gives so much crit damage and like just damage percent in general that she needs help getting all that crit rate. Now for her secondary relic set that you could go into would be the Scholar Lost in Erudition. Increases crit rate for her 2-piece, and 4-piece gives increased damage dealt by skill and ultimate, and increases damage by the next skill after using an ultimate. It's really good, and with the other relic set in that cavern, it's just a really good set to farm right now, and this relic set is actually quite good on a lot of DPSs, so it's a worthwhile farm. Whereas Pioneer, you're really farming it for Acheron, and the second set is good for like Ruan Mei or Harmony Trailblazer, or maybe Fugui if you know, but that's really it. You only want Watchmaker set on one character in your team, so it's very niche in that sense. Like, you're farming it for a single character and then you're done with that set, in my opinion. So you're gonna want to do Pioneer Dead Waters, or you can do Erudition as a backup. For planner sets, you're gonna want to run, her best in slot is Izumo Gensai, in my opinion. It gives her attack percent and crit rate because she has so much damage percent buffing. As I've said 100 times already, she needs as much attack to capitalize on that damage percent, because it scales like that percentage is going based off her attack. Her second option for her relics is Inert Cell Soto. Now, if you play follow-up characters like Clara and such, just follow-up characters in general, you're probably already farming this relic set regardless. So giving increased crit rate, and then after 50% crit rate, it gives damage dealt by ultimate and follow-up attacks by 15%. You're really just getting it for the ultimate percent and the crit rate, but I think she doesn't need that ultimate damage percent at this point in time. Like, she already has so much baked into her kit that it's not really necessary. So I would farm this, or at least like craft it, if you don't want to farm that planner set in particular. Now for stats, you're going to want to focus on crit rate, crit damage, attack percent. If you're at E0, you're going to want speed, like speed boots you'll want. Or if you have E2 and you can have like Bronya or Sparkle, you're going to want attack percent. And then for your planner set, you're going to want attack percent, because she has so much damage percent scaling. Like I've said, you're going to want it. You're going to want to buff up that attack so she has as much attack to scale that percent off of in the first place. And for her rope, you're going to just want attack percent as well, because again, she doesn't need energy regenerate. You don't want to really put break effect on her. I mean, you could with Fugui coming out. If you know, you know. She could benefit from that, but like realistically, just give her attack percent regardless. Don't laugh at my rope. I know it is bad. I've been trying to get a better one. I just cannot find it. It won't come home, but it will come home eventually, I promise. But it's good enough. It's good enough because I have E6S1. It doesn't matter. Don't judge me. But I'll show my relics quick regardless, because I want to show like what these are really good relics. I'm not going to say that they're bad, but I want them to be better. Like, for example, my helmet could be better, could have attack percent and crit damage on here instead of the effect res and defense. But I mean, again, it has 12% crit rate, so it stays. Gloves actually really good. I'm really happy with this piece. I think if we could have gotten this effect res into crit rate, that would have been absolutely perfect piece. 12 out of 10. Her chest piece, again, this one was quite good because I had 3 rolls into crit rate. The effect res it's okay, but I mean, the 3 rolls into crit rate, phenomenal. Especially because you want to do crit damage over crit rate, but I mean, if you need crit rate, throw crit rate on there as well. And then I'm running attack percent boots because I have E6S1. Again, I wish I had better rolls, but you know, E6S1, you're going to be breaking stuff with her, so the break effect isn't terrible. And again, if you plan on getting Fugui, she actually works really good with Acheron, even at E2. So something to keep in mind. And then my planner sphere, actually quite good. Just wish it would have been like into crit rate, or even just crit damage again would have been better. But you don't want to run lightning damage percent because she, like I've said 100 times, she has so much damage percent in buffing that you really just need that attack percent to count. Now for stats, you really want to get at minimum 3000 attack. Anything less, and it's just you're not really doing anything damage wise. Your damage really falls off before that. But 4K is preferred, as much speed as you can get while maintaining the stats. Crit rate, you're gonna want like 70%. I'll show my stats in battle. I'll show a screenshot right here. And then crit damage just as much as you can. I would love to see myself at 50% crit rate and 250% crit damage outside of battle, but that will take forever and I will keep farming until I get there. Now that you have your Acheron built to snuff, we're going to talk about teams. Now, this is my go-to team for Acheron. Now, my Aventurine has Friendly Universal Market, so when he gets hit, he's applying debuffs. But for sustain, you could, if you have Fushuen, give a preservation with Friendly Universal Market. That's your go-to. I think that's your best sustain for her, even if you wanted to run Preservation Trailblazer, because his taunt also is a debuff, or even Ling Sha works as well, because the debuff she implants with her ultimate also, you know, again, helps. And she's quite good at breaking fire enemies. Jiao Cho, best in slot. If you want to play Acheron, you should. I highly recommend. I would almost say he's a must pull if you want to main Acheron, because his kit basically says Acheron go ham, or like she goes hard, even harder. It's crazy how they really just said his kit was just make Acheron go burr plus. Like it's just insane how like they just said, yeah, we're gonna make 5-star Gwenaifen, because I don't agree with people who say 5-star Pella, because he does a damage vulnerability, whereas Pella does defense shred. So they're two different things, and Gwenaifen does the damage percent vulnerability. So they're different. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let me know if you disagree and think I'm a goob, or if you agree because you're based. And that final slot, E0. If you're at E0, you could do like Black Swan, Silver Wolf, probably Pella, because everyone probably has E6 Pella by now. Otherwise, you're very close. As long as you have E4 Pella, if I can get to it. As long as you're at E4 Pella with Pearls of Sweat, you're good, because then you just alternate between her basic and skill to apply as many debuffs as possible. Otherwise, if you're at E6 again, or E2, you can go Sparkle, Bronya. You could run May and just give your Acheron speed, but I don't know why you wouldn't just do either of these, because Action Advance, and because it's hyper carry, you want Acheron to do as much damage. You don't care about the team's damage other than hers. Otherwise, some other optional Nihility units, like I said, are Black Swan, so Wolf, Pella. Free-to-play options would be Pella and Gwenaifen and Gallagher. So here, I'll put that right here real quick. This would be your free-to-play team. It's actually quite good. I have tested it. It's pretty good. So I think it's worthwhile. Otherwise, if you really want to, I'm not sure if it's still good. I haven't tested it lately, but a really funny team that was good when she came out was for zero cycling. You could do the nihilitymommy.exe with Acheron, Black Swan, Kafka, Ron May, and it was just kind of crazy actually how well it worked. To finalize this video, I will give my I'll give my 2 cents on whether or not she is worth it in the long run. I think if you are free to play and you have limited pulls and you didn't get her on her initial run, since it's the end of the patch basically, because how they do things is they're really setting up that 2.7 is really just sending us into 3.x with Sunday, and Fugwe is just really just a final send-off to break effect teams, or super break as a team comp, because I don't think we'll be seeing anything for it in a while. I would recommend skipping her unless you really like her. Pull her S1 if you want to main her and continue to play her, and then if you want her to stay forever valuable, in my opinion, I think she becomes always awesome at E2, but I do think she is a character that at worst will be a great option for all content, just because of how much damage she's able to put out. So I don't think you can go wrong with pulling her. I only think you can go wrong if you're skipping her for meta. If you really like Acheron and you're skipping her because meta, I think that's the biggest L. Because at the end of the day, as I always say, waifu over meta, pull who you want, have fun with the game. It's single player, it's PvE. You don't have to worry about optimizing. That comes with time. Optimize your favorite characters. That is how you play the game. And with that, I give her a rating of waifu out of 10 in terms of pull value. She's great. I love her. She's my favorite character. She's riding Bosun Mori Mei. She is my favorite character in the Hoyoverse verse. So I will always tell people to pull, but waifu over meta. Pull who you like. Have fun. Clear the stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next time. Peace.